Simon, you made a good point. It's a good question. I'm going to put it out there. But before we go to the calls, I want to ask the two of you. I want you to answer your own question, Simon. Do you think England next summer stand a better chance of winning the World Cup under Thomas Tuchel than they might have done with Gareth Southgate?
I do. Not because of the body of work that he's produced so far for England, but because of the moments in time when we get into tournaments and decisions will be made by Tuchel that perhaps Gareth Southgate wouldn't have made. And those are going to be the key moments that define outcomes for England. Those will be the moments that maybe took the game away from Italy in the European Championships when we were in ascendancy and allowed them back in the game. Those will be the moments when we set ourselves up against the French and we're dominating the game when we do something different rather than allowing the French to get back in the game. Those sort of moments, I think, will be the difference between Tuchel and Gareth. And that's why I remain in the camp that, despite the fact I think he might be a very difficult bugger to manage domestically, I think at international level, Tuchel has that X factor that will change the direction of travel in games where England have not.
So, Danny, why was Gareth Southgate trending on Twitter last night with many people saying, we might have been a bit previous here?
Because that's just the way football fans, they're passionate, they live in the moment.
Do you think they stand a better chance under Tuchel than Southgate?
Yeah.
Of winning it?
Yeah, I do.
Based on?
Based on the fact that our main quality is our creativity and attacking players, and they need to be utilised and given the freedom and take the risk. I'd rather us lose it, risking, trying to win it, than cautiously tiptoeing our way through and getting to a semi or a final and getting done by a good team. I think Thomas Tuchel will eventually see that, and I think we'll see a team at least have a good go. I don't think we'll win it though.
But that's what England people tell me every time you go to a major tournament.
But we didn't see it, did we?
But we didn't, did we?
We'll get close.
Yeah, but we'll
get close.
They got close, luckily.
Might not win it, but we'll get close.
They tiptoed their way. They sneaked their way into that final with poor performances and last-minute goals to keep them in, overhead kicks and penalties. It's not the way you want. A group of players as talented as ours, you want to see them have a real good go. And if you lose 5-4, thinking of the French-Spain game, but if you come off the pitch,
performance does matter.
Performance matters to me.
But you think a contributing factor is also going to be the climate,
the
heat that will be in America at that time, which will suit the South Americans and the Spanish far better than it will suit us.
Well, yes, but I also...
Are you getting your excuses in early?
No, I think
it's a factor,
it's
not an excuse.
Factor. I think Tuchel's bright enough. You were talking about his intelligence and experience, and I agree with that. He'll end up with, I would imagine, most of our best technical players on the pitch to make sure we keep the ball well in those conditions, because it's going to be a major threat. It's not going to be they're not going to be Premier League games in that World Cup. It's not going to be end-to-end, dynamic, not if they've got a game in early evening or middle of the afternoon. It's going to be a totally... And he's already talked about it. He's already aware of it. Not that Gareth wouldn't have been, of course. What I'm saying is Tuchel's going to have... I think Tuchel's... He's not scared to... I think we'll see in the World Cup, you might see two different formations and six changes from one game to the
game.
Yeah,
that's what he's like.
Graham Roberts, ex-Tottenham, Rangers, Chelsea... Ask Danny and Simon, what's the thought on Ivan Toney? Why didn't he put him on earlier?
Well, I
didn't go out to Saudi Arabia because I was going to have him part of my squad so I could watch him for myself. And then he doesn't use him.
Yeah, but he'd have seen him every day in training. He'd have seen him every day, how he is, what his energy like, how sharp he is. He might not have brought him on because he might not have trained very well. He might not have had the right attitude.
What does that mean?
Well, that's just one theory. It could,
surely.
Also, Kane was doing all right and scored, and then he went for the two number 10s to try some, which actually worked. But we don't know the reason. We can hypothesise. Ultimately, he's brought him there because they've been together over 2 weeks. He'll have seen what he wanted to see.
Billy is a Liverpool fan. He's also an England fan. Billy, good morning. Have you been seeing what you wanted to see so far?
No, not at all. I think we're whistling in the wind if we think we're going to win this. I think Danny already alluded or clarified when we hit those midfields, those clever European teams that really know how to play tournaments. I think we'll be found out like we always are, unfortunately. And I don't want to be a naysayer or a doom-monger.
No, sure. Do you think you've got a better chance under Tuchel of winning it than you would have had under Gareth?
No better, I think.
Yeah, better.
I think we're going to... no better.
No better.
No better. No, I think, look, Gareth got us as far as he did, twice, far into tournaments. If Tuchel manages that as well, great. but I don't think he'll
Do
win it
you not
either.
think? Do you not think in the Euro Championship final, for example, in 2021, when England take the lead, have the game, and the Italians start to come in, that Tuchel would have done something to change the direction of travel rather than allow it and wait for it to happen until it does happen and then change?
No, I agree with you, Simon. I think Tuchel would have done something about it, but I still don't think we've got the quality to do something.
Okay, Billy, listen, good call. Thank you for the points.
The quality argument is a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just looking at the game you just mentioned quickly, France-Spain. The French front four was Mbappe, Elise, Dembele and Doué.
Where was the quality argument? Okay, we'll make that point and we accept that, and when we read that. But where was the quality argument in the England-France game when England woke up and suddenly decided that they were going to have a go against the French and were really in control of this game? And the French were the ones that looked out of sorts. The French were the ones that changed. The French were the ones that were in trouble. And England stole defeat from the jaws of victory. It was there to be won with a bolder, braver coach that was going to take advantage of the opportunity and stick it on the French more than they did. Okay, Harry Kane misses a penalty, but that was a penalty to get us back in the game. But that was a penalty to get us back in the game because we'd allowed the French to recover rather than stick it on them when we got ourselves right back into the game.
So you think Tuchel and his tactics, this is your missing link and you found it?
Well, for the argument I'm making, I believe that. Now, until I'm disproved in tournament football, until that moment comes when we all sit there going, right, this is a kind of Southgate moment. This is a kind of moment where a game's going to turn, to some extent, on what the coach is prepared to do and what changes he's prepared to make. At that moment, we will know more about Tuchel alongside his team selection and the players he puts on the field.
The substitution last night was clever. Because everyone was going, why is Kane coming off and Tony not coming on? And he left no striker and went 2 number 10s and pushed the wides even higher. And all of a sudden, England started getting joy. We're just making chances, and Gibbs White was having an impact.
And then you lost 3-1. Sorry, Ian's a Manchester United fan and an England fan. I mean, Simon's saying it's a friendly, and it is a friendly, Ian. Are you learning much from this?
Firstly, there's no friendlies in England football. If you're playing for England, you're playing for England. You should play to win. What Tuchel's about, I'm not too sure. Firstly, 5 weeks in Germany. We was over in Andorra last week. We went to Nottingham to watch England. Fans are paying massive amounts of money and they're chanting Southgate's name outside the ground. You know, we need a manager who is capable of coaching these players, and I think that's what it is. I think we do have too many gifted players, and with nobody who can seem to coach them.
I think one of the biggest problems we've got, and a lot of the top countries have it to a degree, but Deschamps was very good at this considering the abundance of talent he had when he had his success, is that the French team was always consistent. Could more or less pick 9 or 10 of the 11 every time big tournament come round. We've got that much talent, that many competition for places. If 10 England fans phoned up now, they'd all pick a different 11.
Yeah.
We there's argument who's going to play as a 10, who's our best right back. We've got 3 or 4 right backs.
Yeah.
What is our best team?
I think, Simon, you're saying, and I don't know if Ian would agree with you, the caller, that when it comes to a key moment in a key game, Tuchel will tweak it in a way that will work to your advantage. Gareth didn't.
But also, I think he'll set his teams up differently from the first instance. I mean, I thought that we were a very reactive side under Gareth rather than a proactive one. And I think we've got the players to be proactive. Yeah. Let the opposition worry about what we're going to do rather than worrying about what they're going to do. I take the point that England fans pay a lot of money to go and travel and spend a lot of time and investment in watching England. But for England fans, the same England fans that would have been booing and howling for Southgate to go are singing for Southgate's name. I mean, that just... I think that's relatively ridiculous.
Tom's a Leeds United and England fan. Tom, were you booing and howling for Gareth to go, and now you've got Tuchel?
Hi, boys. I think that, Simon, what you just said there is bang right. I think reality is, us England fans, we are really high maintenance. We want it all. We always scream for what's not happening. Everyone was saying Southgate to go, but the last two major competitions have been the best football to watch in my life. Really good football, amazing things as we did in competitions. But I just think I'm just fed up to the back teeth of never been able to look at after an England game and go, that was great. We smashed them. It was great. We had an amazing game. It was brilliant. There's always so much criticism about what we're doing wrong, and I honestly.
Okay, Tom's just breaking up a bit. I get your drift though, Tom. Are England, Danny, ever an enjoyable watch?
On occasion, they've been. You know, certain games. For example, I don't know if I'd have to go back a couple of times. Maybe quite enjoyed the England-Germany game at Wembley. Thought he grew into that game and played well and looked the better side in the end, although they started a bit nervously. They can be, but not often enough.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah.
Not often enough. With the players we've got, we should be a better watch.
But there are the teams that are enjoyable to watch are very few and far between at international level. I mean, I don't think Argentina were a great watch. But, that happened to be
Didier Deschamps' French team that won the World Cup and lost the Euro final, they were as boring as you've ever seen, but they were damn efficient, and they had Mbappe as a young lad ripping the world up. So it's all relative.
Right.
The competition winners are generally very good defensively. That's a stat that we know. And we want us to be really attack-minded. The best example of a good flowing football team that won a tournament we've seen in years was Spain. Beautiful football, high energy, technically good, physical,
that's
all
a fair
of
comment.
And that's the bar we're looking.
It was always going to come, and Jamie, the Watford fan, has done it. To your time, though, Jamie. Jim, didn't Scotland lose the other night 3-1 at home to a supermarket chain? Iceland, I love that. Chelsea Mac, incidentally. Thomas Tuchel is a natural-born winner. We may not win the World Cup, but we will go close with them. He's a winner. So instead of getting in his back, maybe get behind him.
Yep.
David's a big Chelsea fan. Do you go with that, David?
No, I don't. I think that is a stupid comment to make. Simon says that Thomas Tuchel is a tournament manager. Yeah, Thomas Tuchel has managed international football. And what does he think the Andorra game was? Non-tournament football. Andorra was a World Cup qualifier. So
and
you'd
they
have
won.
to think that.
And they won.
Well, you'd have to think. Huh?
They won.
They won.
They might have won, yeah. That's not a problem with the winning, yeah. They won. But look at the style in which they won.
You got everyone behind the ball. Spain only beat them 1-0. The European champions, the best team in Europe.
Forget about that, Danny. Forget about that now. Forget about that. The ins and outs and comparisons. This was Thomas Tuchel's World Cup team, and he promised us that we was going to play with some step in it. But he played Jordan Henderson in a tournament game to get 3 points, and Royce was on the bench. It just did not make any sense. His team. Do you know what I mean? I mean, let's be honest with you. I bet a lot of people realised that we was going to get beat by Senegal.
Did you think that, David, pre-match? I know it's easy to look back, benefit of hindsight.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You don't make 10 changes, right? Keep the one player on, Harry Kane, who should have got a rest. Do you know what I mean? And then play a team that hasn't been beaten 20-odd games. It was a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, you'd have to say that the team against Andorra was Thomas Tuchel thinking about his team, or what he's going to play, because that was a proper game.
That's a great point, David. David, that's a great point. That was Thomas Tuchel's tournament face the other night. That was a World Cup qualifier.
I'll pack it in.
Jim, you and I could have played and we'd have won.
Pack it in. It's a silly analysis. Job was done against Andorra. Completely different dynamic. Everyone knows they're going to qualify.
You've been sitting here saying this, but the style does matter. Style matters, not just results, but style matters.
Well, look,
it didn't the other night.
I'll give you. I've played in games where you're completely dominant, right, and you're winning 1-0. The intensity isn't there because why does it need to be? The game's won. They tried. They made loads of shots on target. The keeper made saves. They missed chances. They were comfortable. They hardly had a shot. I don't even think they had a shot. How intense do you want them to play? Why would you?
So why was Tuchel so critical then, post-match?
Because he's got high expectation, and he's got to set his stall out on what he expects from the players. But how many times have we seen teams sit behind the ball? These pub teams who have to play at international level and just defend. It's a nightmare to play against. Boring, hard to get you. I mean, on another day, should have been 3 or 4 with the chances we had, and we didn't. But we still won.
Netherlands beat Malta 8.
Yeah. But Liverpool, England have had games where they've won 6 or 7. So it depends. Sometimes you have a day where they come out a little bit, make some space. If you're playing at Wembley, the pitch is bigger, whatever.
Here's Matt, Leicester fan Matt, will take us up to 11 o'clock. Good morning, Matt. Where's your head with it all? Do you stand a better chance of winning the World Cup next year, Matt, under Tuchel than you did with Gareth?
Probably not. No, I don't think so. But I think also that we don't quite have the strength and depth in certain positions at the very top level in most positions. But his first couple of squads and team selections and personnel on the pitch have just been curious as well. I mean, he's choosing his squads kind of like I'd choose a French squad. it probably looked good on paper, but I don't necessarily know the Strasbourg young centre-back that's good on the ball, or the Brest midfielder that you can use in certain situations. But, I mean, the reason why I'm calling is that I see this as the sort of beginnings of what happened with Capello. We have a foreign coach that doesn't really owe us anything. He has some bad performances, bad results, doesn't seem to, he's agitating the players already, especially after on the back of what Southgate produced. And I think with the constant criticism with the media, which is only going to grow, the constant criticism with the fans, with the booing, I think this is a powder keg ready to happen. And I think there's a chance. I'm not saying it's a particularly good chance, but there's certainly a chance that he doesn't make it to the World Cup.
Wow. What about the Capello comparison?
I thought that as well. I thought the Capello comparison was prevalent, because are we saying that the way that we can create an England team that falls at the hurdles that it's fallen at is only by wrapping your arm around them and constantly creating this environment that Gareth Southgate allegedly created, which is the fact that it's a very harmonious, everybody gets on. We went past the age of people not being able to communicate with one another because they play for different football clubs. Club England, everyone nice, everyone happy, everyone pleased to play with one another. Now, Capello was very robust, didn't get the climate, hadn't managed in England, so he didn't understand perhaps some of the culture. Where Tuchel has the same robustness, I think, that top managers have and demand. You don't get to manage PSG, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, and the big clubs that he's managed, and be a difficult sod in all of them if you don't have some robustness about you. And Capello had the same outlook. The difference here is that whether Tuchel is going to tweak a little bit, acknowledging the fact there is some uniqueness about the culture of English players that perhaps Southgate tuned into and got some of the best out of them.
Okay.
In certain
the feedback on Tuchel from players has been really positive for most of the clubs he's been at, actually, because I looked into this a while ago, because I thought he was losing jobs because of his relationship with the players, and it wasn't. It was mainly relationships with the hierarchy. The players speak really well of him, and especially at Chelsea.
Yeah.
The reality is, I don't think that'll be a problem. The difference with Capello is from minute one, the lads were not having him. He was a tyrant. And the lads had never known anything quite like it.
But there was a perception being painted that because Tuchel, and we know that narratives run a long way, first impressions last the longest. That's why I would rather Thomas Tuchel be winning these games than allowing a narrative to be built up that he's got to unpick and unstitch, because it's starting already. It'll start that we've got another strong manager. He's prepared to be strong with the players, which means that ultimately there's going to be a problem created, and now we're going to start to pull Tuchel to pieces, rather than say, we know what our faults are. We know we're going to qualify for this World Cup, and we know that our faults are when we get to tournament football, we just don't seem to have the juice in the games where it's a 50-50. And that's the thing that I'm only prepared to judge Thomas Tuchel by. The rest of it for me is gravy.
Correct.
Time for a little feature simply entitled No Fence Sitting.
Okay.
Now,
I don't think I'm a fence sitter, but go on.
We have a range of statements here sent in from the listeners, because producer Luke has been doing some polling out there. And Danny, all you need to do is answer them with either agree, strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree, and maybe a reason as to why.
Okay.
Agree or strongly agree, disagree or strongly disagree, and then you can give us your brief reason as to why. You with me on that?
Yep.
Okay.
Fire away.
Here we go. There's no buzzer or anything, Liz. There's not time sensitive, Simon. You can sit back and relax and enjoy it.
I'm going to
Plead the
learn
fifth
things.
on any.
Danny Murphy, in terms of history, prestige, GOAT players and managers, Liverpool will always remain in Manchester United's shadow. Agree, strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree?
Disagree. I think it's subjective. I'm a bit biased because I love Liverpool, but they've won equal titles, more Champions Leagues. Both have huge fan base worldwide.
Why don't you strongly disagree?
Just because I'm starting a bit tentatively.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you really believe it, why don't you?
No, because I
Half in,
understand.
half out.
Half in, half out. You got half empty.
Well, there will be people who agree with that statement.
We weren't asking people, we was asking you.
All right, strongly disagree.
All right.
Thank you, Danny. Your 2001 treble of the UEFA Cup, the Worthington Cup, and the FA Cup is impressive, but it's not a proper treble. Do you agree, strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree?
It's not a proper treble. Yeah, I agree.
That it's not a proper treble.
So it's a treble, but it's not the proper treble. I agree.
What's the proper treble?
Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup.
That was very honest, wasn't it?
I agree with him.
I like that. No fence-sitting from Danny at this stage. Football was a better watch pre-2010 than it is today. Agree? Strongly agree. Disagree? Strongly disagree?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. A better watch before 2010.
Well, I mean, it's a personal thing because I grew up watching football and loved it so much, and the freedom.
Is it Pep's fault?
The
Domination?
I don't think just Pep's fault. I think it's just the way the game's evolved. I don't blame one individual. That would be a bit harsh. I enjoyed it more back then, yeah.
Well, you were playing pre-2010.
Even before I was before I was playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It always felt back then anybody could beat anybody. It was more even. Teams always had a go against each other. There wasn't one who'd sit back against the other.
Right.
It's a bit generic, but you know, it's quick fire. So
this is making you think, which we like.
It is. It's hurting at this time of day.
Danny Murphy, players of today have it harder than your generation did. Agree? Strongly agree? Disagree? Or strongly disagree?
Players have it harder now. I disagree.
Why?
The only element they've got more difficulty with is social media. Everything back then was tougher. You had to sink or swim. It was more ruthless.
When? But really?
In my day.
Yeah.
It was harder, yeah.
But they're scrutinised today like they've never been before.
They are because of social media more. That's the only bit.
That's a fair analysis.
Everything else was tougher because you were... The whole regime was tougher.
Yeah.
From coaches, players. Yeah, it was tougher then.
Fair enough. Punditry is easy today if you can master the art of clickbait. Do you agree? Strongly agree. Disagree? Strongly disagree? Punditry is easy if you master the art of clickbait, Danny.
I agree.
Oof.
If you're really clever with your clickbait and your social media and you've got a good team of people doing that for you, it makes your life easy.
You ever been in this show or match of the day and you thought, I'm going to say something here because this is going to get them going?
No. It's happened accidentally, but I'm not, and I don't have a team of people.
Not when you called all the officials thick.
No, I meant that. Came out a bit wrong, but I meant it when I said it.
They could do a better job than all of them. Agree. Strongly agree.
Strongly agree. Still agree to that. No, that wasn't about refs. That was about VAR.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're clever now, you can become really popular really quickly without having
more qualified. It should be good punditry rather than punditry.
I think you can be really well liked and really popular without having brilliant opinions.
Did you feel well liked? Just in the passing.
Wouldn't be for me to say.
You're loved by us. Some more statements from and these are all points from the listeners.
Quite
I have
tough,
to say.
by the way.
You'll like this one. I think I know where we're going to go with it.
Real brain toilers.
Technology has killed the game. We pine for the days of Lampard's ghost goal. Do you agree? Strongly agree? Disagree? Strongly disagree?
Agree.
Strongly agree?
Yeah.
Technology's killed the game.
I hate it, yeah.
So you pine for the days of Lampard's ghost goal?
No, goal line technology's all right. I don't mind that. But the rest of it I hate. I'd go back in a heartbeat. Put me in a time machine. For so many reasons.
Would love to do that. Club over country. You agree? Strongly agree? Disagree? Strongly disagree?
Strongly agree.
Really? Playing for Liverpool meant more than playing for England?
Absolutely. That's all I ever wanted to do.
Why was that? Is that a Liverpool thing?
I don't know. Maybe. I just dreamt of playing for Liverpool. I didn't really dream of playing for England.
Yeah.
I can't really... Why? Don't know. That's all I ever dreamt about. The England thing was a bonus. I loved it. But it wasn't a dream.
You've been very honest. I admire you for that. Couple more. Steven Gerrard would have achieved more as a player if he'd gone through with leaving Liverpool and joined Mourinho's Chelsea in 2005. Agree, strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree.
I disagree. He might have won more trophies, but he wouldn't have the reputation and adoration he's got now.
But in terms of achievement, would you achieve more?
It depends on how you interpret.
Would you won a title with Mourinho?
Yeah, but it depends how you interpret the word achievement, I suppose.
Trophies.
Well, in your book, yeah. I think it's a bigger achievement.
Oh, how do you?
Well, I think it's a
gauge
bigger
achievement?
achievement to be classed as the club's greatest ever player because of what you did there.
Well, I suppose it goes down the analogy.
Legacy.
There's two kinds of people in the world. There's popular people and there's successful people. It's amazing how popular you become when you're successful. I would imagine being successful is winning things in
But
football.
success.
I would think so.
But he did have success in terms of winning trophies, didn't he? It's not like he didn't ever win anything.
Not Premier League.
No, he won everything else and was a huge factor in that. And his legacy and his popularity, you could argue success again, it's an interpretation of the word. I think he's more popular now because of what he did.
Okay.
And has a better legacy.
This is a final short one. Again, a stress from the listeners, or a listener, and this isn't coming
I'm
from me.
glad you didn't get Simon to do
So
it.
never look upon this final one as being
Okay.
brutal, and it came from me because, as you know, you and I have a very close relationship, maybe close to loving relationship. But anyway, here we go. Your international career, Danny, was a letdown. Agree, strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree?
For me personally, agree.
A letdown.
Yeah. What was it, 9 caps? That's a letdown for me.
Does that bug you to this day? Why did you not achieve more?
Well, I
wearing the colours
understand
of
the
England?
reasons because of the level of players I was up against.
Yeah.
It was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I still feel I could have done more. And when I missed the World Cup, with the injuries they had that tournament, that's the one that got away. Because I was out there, I was in the squad, and then I got injured.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a letdown a little bit. When I look back and analyse, I don't look at it and go, oh, you did amazing to get 9. I look the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a letdown.
Couldn't, should have been more. Danny, thank you for no fence sitting on any of those. Just one for Simon. When you wore those white boots, the goal you scored at Wembley was the best anyone has ever seen. Agree, strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree?
Strongly agree.
Liverpool very much in advanced stages of their negotiations to secure the signature of one Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen. Danny, you were on record here on this very radio station saying they get Wirtz, it's game over. Look no further than Liverpool.
Yeah, it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I think it's a massive plus for them because he's such a talent.
You're peering back a bit.
No, I mean, the reality is Liverpool are going to be...
Strongly agree.
He, if it happens, going to be a wonderful addition because he's so creative. You know, he scores goals and makes goals, and he's just a super talent. Can play in different positions, so he's going to make Liverpool stronger, which means they've got a hell of a chance of winning the league.
Yeah,
but City are going at it. I mean, they've made some good turkeys of 21-year-old who's been, lauded for the last 3 or 4 years, really, since he came on the scene at such a young age. Super talent. They got Reinders, they got Aït-Nouri. They're having a go. And other clubs are going to have a go, aren't they? I think Arsenal are going to have a really good go. Chelsea will spend again. But if Liverpool get the players in over the line that they're already linked to, they're going to take some beating.
right. But if they get Wirtz and it looks likely, it might not necessarily be game over.
Well, you can never say for sure. But if I was having...
Did you just do that to get hits, like social media hits?
No, we were... At the time, we were... I don't know who we had on the line, but somebody who not a Liverpool person, so...
Keown.
No, it wasn't mine. I can't think. But no, I meant it. I think Liverpool win it.
Oh, you did mean it?
Well, yeah. I said it in a way that was a bit flippant, but I think if they get him, they'll win it.
Right.
It'd be closer, but I think they'll win it.
Yeah. Just wondering if you've had any dialogue with your chum at Tottenham, Mr. Levy?
No, have not.
So Ange Postecoglou is gone. It's all but done, as far as we gather. Regards Thomas Frank going into Tottenham and leaving Brentford, and we'll see what happens after that. What difference is Thomas Frank going to be, do you think, that Daniel has pinpointed that this is what I need?
Well, it remains to be seen, to be honest. I mean, he's a very good manager, and he's a very good manager managing Brentford, and that's a different environment than managing Tottenham Hotspur. Brentford's modus operandi is to be reasonably successful in the Premier League, and that starts with staying in it and then punching up as high as they possibly can. That starts with working with a certain level of footballer on a certain level of salary, with a certain level of scale. And the whole dynamic has changed at Tottenham Hotspur, irrespective of whether people want to use the moniker Spursy and what they have and haven't won. They're a big football club. They were one of the founding football clubs of the Premier League. They're expected to be at the top of the Premier League. They buy players that are, albeit with Daniel's wage structure, not the most expensive, but still expensive footballers. Their crowd are expecting of a certain brand of football. And there's a necessity economically to achieve certain outcomes.
I think the great thing he's got, though, is that when you're going to Tottenham and they've bought some brilliant young players, and generally their squad isn't full of superstars and prima donnas. He's not going to Man United, that type of scenario where you're dealing with a different type of player who's a superstar.
A couple of them in there. Guerrero's a bit of a...
I think he'll be gone. Yeah. But generally, he's moving into a group of players, I think, from the outside that look hungry and want to learn and listen. I don't think he's going to have that.
What is he inheriting is what I'm trying to ask.
He's got a talented young squad. It needs a little bit of tweaking. He might want to bring in a couple of his own, of course, because the strength in depth was an issue at times, I think, for Ange, apparently. So, but he's going into a good squad of players.
Yeah.
The great thing about Thomas Frank that I like, and this ain't said just because I've met him and know what a nice guy he is, it's just what I see from his Brentford side. When I watch Brentford, I'm never quite sure how they're going to play. He mixes it beautifully at the right times, and he's brave. He has a go at teams. He's not a manager who sits back. They can defend in numbers at times. They will.
But it said that about Ange.
But
he has a go.
They did.
You score two, we'll get three.
Is it easier?
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying.
But is it easier to be brave, just curiosity, and not without any preconceived idea of the answer?
Yeah, less pressure.
Is it easier to be brave at Brentford when the consequences of losing games doesn't automatically descend upon you in the next press conference?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. But I think that what you've got ultimately is a very good coach and tactically aware, who, for me, when I watch Brentford play, has a group of players who run through walls for him. Now, I'm not saying they didn't for Ange, but the reason you run through walls generally is because you're on board with what he's trying to do. I think Tottenham will have a really good season under him because he is able to adapt quickly. He's really good at it.
I think the fascinating thing would be to understand, and I will ask him at some point, and how forthcoming he will be is a different discussion. What is the brief? What is the target? What is it you want to achieve? And of course, the easy answer is to be winning things. But realistically speaking, you won something. Mm-hmm. I'm in the camp and have been in the camp for some time and wrote it a month ago that irrespective of whether he wins this Europa League, I think the reality of Ange was if someone shows you themselves, then you should believe them. And I think he showed you the capability of Tottenham Hotspur. The wonderful things are first impressions. They allow you to indulge yourself in all kinds of opportunities. When you've taken 78 points out of 66 games, you've showed yourself in a huge sample size that ultimately, whether you were able to have a conversation with your chairman during the course of the season, which says, I'm going to sacrifice the league for the Europa League, is by the by. Over that period of time, you illustrated that because you win a trophy does not mean that next season that's going to kick you on, that you're going to be in a situation. And what Daniel Levy had to consider was, what have I seen? What do I know? What have I got? I've got a trophy. Does that necessarily mean that I should be going into the transfer window being yelled and screamed at to spend 150 million quid on players, find myself in a situation where what I believe to be the case potentially is that I could struggle again in the league, and then find that situation in October, and then have to take a manager out, and then have no ability to change it, have bought players that this manager bought? Of course, it's common sense to have taken it out.
Yeah. The remit. Let me put this to you, Danny, before we go off here, and I want to jump in and put this to you. No disrespect meant to any of the clubs involved here. Thomas Frank from Brentford to Tottenham. Say it happens, and it's looking very likely it's going to happen. Are there similarities here with Graham Potter, Brighton to Chelsea?
No, I'd go down to Pochettino, just from Southampton to Tottenham route. Who's then had a wonderful time at Tottenham. It's like footballers. Same with coaches. You go up a level and you either flourish and succeed and do well, or you fail and you drop back down and find your level.
To both of you, what's next for Ange?
He'll get a job.
Here?
No.
The Premier League? No.
I think somewhere in Europe will take him. He's, he's got some attributes someone will like. That all or nothing football. He's won something.
He's a European trophy winner.
Yeah. He's won some at every club he's been at. He'll get a job.
Yeah.
No problem there. But I don't think it'll be here. Do you?
No, I don't. Not unless an opportunity comes out of the ether where someone thinks that an Ange Postecoglou outlook is something they really quite like, and we know we can't legislate for that during the course of next season until someone gets taken out of a job.
And the other thing with Ange as well, just to be fair to him, I mean, if he's got half the brain, which of course he has, he'll have learnt a lot on that in this job.
Yeah,
you're always learning. He'll look back on it if any, do some self reflection and think, actually, could have done that a bit differently there.